Hey guys, welcome to the video, Salt here. Today we'll be going over the new primary, the Coda Sporothrix. Now before we go over the build, let's go over our first commenter of the last video, Coping or Cooking, and the top commenter of the last video, Skip Street. And of course we have our three most recent channel supporters here of Nice Bear, Colonel Suro 6, and Alfofo. Thank you so much for your support. Unique and interesting things about the weapon is that it's a sniper rifle with a 2.7 times zoom and a plus 50% headshot damage on that zoom. After hitting an enemy, the bullet will explode after about 1 second in a 2-meter AoE, and that explosion has innate viral. Now, our build will be using a Sporothrix specific augment that kind of changes how that works a bit, and it's called Volatile Variant. So, Volatile Variant gives the shots +3 punch through, and the barbs now explode instantly on hit. And if those shots hit an enemy directly, it will explode in a +4 meter radius and have an extra +50% status chance. Another unique thing not to this weapon specifically, but to Lich type weapons in general, is that you'll be able to pick a progenitor element that comes innate on the weapon. And in this case, we're going to be picking magnetic. Before we go over the mods, I want to point to a few important stats that will guide us in our build. Let's go to a blank config to see this. So first, the crit chance is very bad at 5%, but the crit damage is actually quite good at 3 times. Now, unfortunately, primaries don't have easy ways to make that 5% crit chance work for you like secondaries do. I'm not saying it's impossible though, you just need to jump through a few more hoops if you want to utilize that ×3 crit multiplier. And that would be using forms of a crit chance type called Final Critical. 45% Final Critical is available in the Warframe Arcane Avenger. A 60% Final Critical chance buff is available through a pet called Adarza Kavat, although that's only being at about a 1/3 uptime on that pet. And certain Warframes themselves have forms of Final Critical or even forms of another type of critical called Absolute Critical that could also work. Now, our build won't be doing any of these, but just know that if you did want to try these externals, the only change is converting our flex mod of high voltage into a crit damage mod. That would likely be either Vital Sense or Hammer Shot. And then the other stat I wanted to point out is the base status chance, which is a whopping 55%. And that means that any mods that give us % status chance are going to get gigantic value. All right, I think we can go through the mods finally. Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot. Galvanized Aptitude for status chance and damage. Semi-Rifle Cannonade for flat damage. Rifle Elementalist for status damage. Volatile Variant is the augment we talked about at the beginning. In the next 2 slots, we'll use a heat and a cold mod to make blast. I suggest using the heat 60/60 and the primed cold mod to make sure your blast is overweighted. And in the next slot, you can either use the electric 60/60 or the toxic 60/60, although I prefer the electric one myself. In the Exilus slot, there's not great options here. You could pick whatever you like really. Although the 2 that I think are kind of maybe okay and maybe slightly better than the rest are Terminal Velocity, which would make your weapon a little bit more hit scan-like, and then Agile Aim, which would let you move slightly quicker while you're aiming. But just remember, both of those are very, very minor upgrades, so pick whatever you want here. And finally, in the Arcane slot, we go with Primary Crux for 300% status chance. Again, this is going to be huge since our weapon already has a base status chance of 55%. Now, if you don't have Primary Crux, then just use Primary Deadhead here instead. And with Primary Deadhead, you can actually afford to remove Semi-Rifle Cannonade, since you'll be getting your flat damage from Primary Deadhead instead. But if you do have Primary Crux, It's just too valuable not to use because of its synergy with this weapon's base status chance. this is how you build out the new primary, the Coda Sporothrix. I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing for future content. So now we'll have the 5-minute gameplay portion, and when that's done, I'll see you guys again to go over its score and ranking, as well as giving my final thoughts on it. Okay, I'll see you guys again after the gameplay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start the gameplay here. We'll do 5 minutes on Lewis Circulus. We're actually doing Lewis Circulus today instead of Void Mott. For a long time, for most of the time, I was actually doing my testing on Lewis Circulus. And then for the last like 2 or 3 months, I decided to do Mott instead. And it was because I was having issues with one particular enemy type on this map. They spawn these dogs, but the dogs will actually like fight their own faction for some reason. And so it'll kind of like stop the enemies from moving towards you, and they'll kind of like be stuck in like weird peripheral rooms. So it could like affect your kill per minute numbers. And so that's why I switched to doing Mott instead. But honestly, all day I haven't really had those issues. I don't know if I've just gotten lucky or whatnot, but there's a few reasons I want to switch back to Lewis Circulus anyway. You know, it's higher level content. It's the mission that starts enemies at the highest level other than like EDA and ETA. So it's good to somewhat show what it would look like in endurance content, you know, like an hour or so into like a survival or a disruption. Obviously on Cascade, you can get to enemy scale much quicker on Cascade. But other than that one mission type, you know, it's usually an hour before you start seeing enemies at like level 200. If I could afford to do a level cap run every single day, I would. But because I do videos every single day or almost every single day, I can't really afford to do a 2-hour Cascade. And hope I don't have to redo the video and then have to do another 2 hours for Cascade. So, you know, unfortunately, I can't show a level cap run every single day, but this is like the next best, you know. And then other than the levels, at 5 minutes in on Lewis Circulus, they also spawn in Thraxes, which are pretty good enemy types to look at single target damage as well. So that's another cool thing about Lewis Circulus. You know, you can kind of show single target damage off on Acolytes, but it's not perfect. Because unfortunately, Acolytes can only have statuses max out at 4 on them. And so like, there are some weapons that are good single target, but they get their single target through like, you know, a lot of dot procs, and those aren't really good to show on Acolytes, unfortunately. So not only do you get the higher level enemies, but you get some a good showcase on single target damage at that 5 minute mark. I mean, we'll still have the Acolytes too, right? The Acolyte will still probably spawn in. Now, when I do these runs, weapons that are average will get 500 to 700 kills in 10 minutes. Weapons that are above average or good will get 700 to 900 kills in 10 minutes. And weapons that are really good or meta will get 900 and over kills in 10 minutes. So we'll see what this guy gets here. Now, of course, this is only a 5 minute run we're doing for the gameplay showcase, but I've already recorded the, or not recorded, but I've already written down the scores of the 3 10-minute runs I did. So I know what it's going to get already, but I'll wait until the reveal after this. I do 3 10-minute runs, and then I see what the average is between them. I'm also starting kind of like a different rating system too. So before I was just rating it on kill per minute, which is fair. You know, it's a fair thing to rate a weapon on, but it doesn't give you all of the information. You know, I think rating it on the actual damage it does on single target is also important. Because you have a weapon like the Nucor, which is amazing at kill per minute, but kind of garbage at single target damage. You know, and then you have like the opposite for something like the Kuva Heck, which is amazing at single target damage, but pretty garbage at kill per minute. So I feel like kind of rating him on both of those scales gives you like a fair assessment of a weapon. Mania, the literal worst dude. If I can like be inside of him, I could be in his Mania bubble. He actually puts Zephyr's Turbulence on. And yeah, you won't be able to shoot past him unless your AoE is big enough. Or that bubble falls off, which it might fall off here. Let's see. Is it on? I don't think that hit him, so I think the Turbulence buff is still on. Oh no, that hit. It must be off. Okay, there we go. I can't stand Mania. He is like the worst acolyte to get for test runs. Because the turbulence buff not only affects him, but it affects, like, you're not able to actually shoot through it at all. So he could like block you from you know, killing trash enemies. So he's like, you know, kind of blocking you on your kill per minute numbers. All right, that's 5 minutes in. We'll take a gander at our score here. It's 487. That'll kind of give it an indication what the 10-minute numbers will look like. So we'll cut it here. All right, welcome back, guys. As you noticed from the gameplay there, we went back to doing Lewis Circulus instead of Void Mott for our test runs. We used to always do Lewis Circulus, and then for some reason about 2 or 3 months ago, I decided to start doing Mott, and yeah, I decided today to go back to doing Circulus again. So we're doing Circulus again for our test runs. So let's go over the 3 10-minute Steel Path runs that we got with the Coda Sporothrix here. So in its 3 runs, the Coda Sporothrix got 979, 910, and 922 kills in 10 minutes, securing itself in the S tier for kill per minute values. Now let's go over single target. For single target, it's very good, but it's not a one-hitter. And so we'll give it an A tier for single target damage. And finally, let's rate it for its usability or ease of use. This is more relative if you're an average player or a newer player. If you've been playing a really long time, you're probably fine using sniper rifles, but let's just give it an ease of use rating anyway. So it's a sniper with a zoom, so right off the bat, that's gonna kind of dissuade some people from using it. But because the build doesn't need to rely on merciless or deadhead stacks, and just gets consistent flat damage through semi-rifle cannonade, you never really feel like you need to chase kills like you do with some weapons using those other arcanes. And even though, yeah, it's a sniper with zoom, it's got pretty crazy AoE. So I think we'll give it a B for ease of use. So that's my take. Tell me what you think, guys. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.